et. Pardon. Et. Bonjour, bienvenue. Est-ce que vous avez un casque éventuellement pour. J'aurais bien aimé tester l'audio. Thomas, tu as un casque avec toi pour tester si le zoom, si on a bien l'audio dans le zoom. Vas-y, je te donne les identifiants. On est d'accord dans la carte d'acquisition. Moi, l'audio, je la récupère en sortie de lui, connecté au zoom. Je récupère l'audio du zoom là-dedans. Et je diffuse en salle en même temps que je diffuse dans le zoom. Je veux dire, dans le sens, j'ai pas de.
Non, parce que ton zoom, c'est juste l'Ox 2. Donc en fait, on ne voit pas l'Ox 2 dans ton zoom en 3
Oui,
écrans.
d'accord.
Tu envoies l'Ox 2 que pour 1 et 2.
Donc
Que le micro.
que le micro, voilà, c'est pour ça. D'accord. Donc, moi, si. Oui, oui, d'accord, ok, c'est bon. Tu veux te connecter? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 3. Alors, vas-y, les identifiants. C'est juste que je trouve que ça module très fort, alors que.
Non, mais là, tu peux baisser ici, hein, aussi. Là, tu as le volume qui est.
Ouais.
Ah, donc là, là, tu vois, tu peux le baisser.
Moi, c'est que l'input 1.
Ah oui,
Non,
mais quand tu écoutes ton micro, il est dans Zoom, ça c'est différent.
non, mais pas depuis le.
Sinon, ça l'harcèle.
Donc, oui, t'as que l'entrée.
Alors, sinon, lance ton mail, j'ai un peu chaud.
Alors, on y va. Alors, 992 93 05 31 13. Le code secret. C'est un plaisir de vous avoir avec nous aujourd'hui. Bonjour à tous. 1, 2. Et. Alors, bouge pas. Je ne t'entends pas.
T'es connecté là? T'es connecté là?
Oui.
Là. Et toi, il faut que tu actives ta caméra peut-être. Et ton micro.
C'est surtout mon micro. Ouais.
Donc là,
Et
le micro que tu dois rentrer, c'est la M-Audio Track Duo.
là, ici, en sortie, regarde. J'ai microphone USB capture SDI line in.
Non,
Alors, c'est
ton micro, c'est la Duo. La
Ah oui, la
première.
première.
Et là, vidéo.
Et en sortie, là, M-Audio Solo Duo.
Non, 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 non.
M-Track Hub.
Voilà, celle-là. Tu actives ta vidéo.
Okay, on s'en fout d'activer la vidéo.
Bah si, sinon je te vois pas.
Oui.
Donc et là ta vidéo ça doit être ton. Ça doit être ton.
Intake,
Ton
oui.
USB capture. Voilà.
D'accord, oui. Merci.
Et donc toi tu m'envoies pas ça par contre. Là tu envoies ça, moi j'entends.
Pour l'instant, je t'envoie ça, mais si tu veux, je t'envoie.
Tu peux zoomer un peu l'écran.
Toi, je te pile en plein écran. Est-ce que tu m'entends? Thomas, est-ce que tu m'entends? Déjà, si tu fais oui avec la tête, tu m'entends? Alors non, attends.
Non, dans le zoom c'est Lox 2, non?
Dans le zoom, c'est
Tu
Lox 2.
montes.
Oui.
En fait, sur tes
Est-ce que
tranches
tu
1 et
m'entends
2,
mieux là?
tu envoies. C'est mieux déjà.
Là,
Sur tes tranches 1 et 2, tu envoies plus Dox 2
ouais,
dans
ouais.
le.
Là, c'est
Dans
mieux comme
l'ensemble.
ça? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Là c'est beaucoup mieux, c'est beaucoup mieux.
Ok. Toi, je t'entends un peu faible.
C'est parce que je suis sur un téléphone. Alors après, est-ce que après tu peux monter le, tu peux monter les tranches du zoom, hein. Les tranches de la console qui diffusent en salle.
Ouais, ouais, non, c'est ce que je fais.
Tu montes un petit peu.
Ok. Bon, déjà, on est pas mal là. Donc, je t'entends bien, tu m'entends bien.
Je t'entends bien, je me vois dedans, ce qui est normal puisque tu dois me diffuser, j'imagine, à l'écran.
Pour l'instant, c'est ce que je diffuse, mais admettons que je diffuse ça, tout va bien.
Non, là, j'ai toujours la même chose.
Là, tu te vois, pourtant je t'envoie pas au programme, c'est bizarre.
Là, tu m'envoies. Qu'est-ce que tu envoies dans le projecteur? En fait, moi, normalement, j'ai une recopie du projecteur, non?
Ben, je te vois toi, tu te vois toi du coup, puisque je
Oui,
forcément
c'est ça, avec
ça
un
est...
carré au milieu du visage.
Ouais, voilà.
Ouais.
Donc, bon, après, si le gars se voit, c'est pas très grave, hein.
Non, le temps qu'il fasse sa présentation,
Ben, il fait sa présentation, il va devoir partager des slides ou pas?
ça, je ne sais pas.
Est-ce qu'il va devoir partager des slides à distance? Nelly? À écran partagé. Donc du coup, moi je diffuserai sa caméra en petit, hein, forcément. Ok.
Ah, il
Euh,
fait de l'écran partagé?
oui, mais c'est pas grave, du coup, je diffuserai
Non, mais c'est
le
très bien.
zoom
Au
plein
contraire,
pot et
c'est très bien.
puis.
C'est parfait.
Ouais, ouais. Tu
Très
reviens,
bien.
c'est bon?
Je reviens? Non, je reviens pas. Bon.
Non, tu n'as pas envie de revenir. Non, mais bon, je vais dire attention, c'est bon. On a le son, c'est bon.
Ok, allez, je coupe.
À de suite.
do you have any update on your end joining?
Hi, I'm
Hello? Hello? There we go. We're joined by Jean-Philippe Muller, who is the president of the university. So he's going to come and tell us a few words. Thank you so much for being here. And
some knowledge, discussion about new trends, new topic. And it's really my pleasure to have you here this morning. I know you had 2 days before discussing about a lot of topics, but it's very important, I think, to be part of a university like the International University of Monaco. Maybe you don't know what is the university. Yes, maybe you don't know about the IUM. So some people don't know there's a university in Monaco. There is from 1986. So it's a business school with 700 students. We are small scale, part of a larger group with 35,000 of students, Omnes Education Group. Here we are very specific for 3 reasons. First, we are in Monaco, and it's unique. We are the only one. And as I used to say to the student, Monaco is the campus for the student, because we can organize a lot of relationship between the territory, the student, the professor, to develop knowledge, training, experiential learning. And it's unique. The size of the Monaco state is like the size of some US campus in the world. So we can do a lot of things in relationship with the organization around. I can give you an example. The students are part of the organization of the Formula One Grand Prix, those in the Master of Science in Sport Business Management. Okay, so it's the first characteristic, to be in Monaco in a small-scale environment. Second, we have a weakness. We do not have a domestic market to recruit students. So we do recruit students all over the world, 70 different nationalities of students, no dominant one. So it's really international, multicultural, and I think it's part of the learning. And the last thing that is very important for us, because of this, because we have international accreditation like ACSB OMBA that are very famous, we have researchers inside, and our role here is to be aligned with the principality, with the DNA. So we do a lot of research regarding the problem of luxury management, wealth management, private banking, sustainable development, because it's important, digital transformation. So it's part of our role to develop those kind of research more and more. So I don't want to be long because I know we have a sort of scheduling. So I just stop here, and if you have further questions, feel free. I will be with you for the lunch. Thank you very much, and once again, welcome here in the university.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the introduction. Now we'll have a short presentation from one of the professors here, and she will talk a little bit more about what they're doing and give us a bit more of an introduction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Thank you. So my name is Marika Taishoff, and I'm the director of the MBA program here. I've been director of the MBA program for many years. I've been living here in Monaco for about 13 years now. I'm originally from New York City, and I've worked at other business schools as well, IMD in Lausanne, Imperial in London, Bocconi in Milan. And, you know, you're now in a business school, and I'm sure some of you also have been in business schools or maybe currently in a business school. And business schools have gone through a bit of a bad rap a couple of years ago. You might recall with the financial crash, right? And there were academic articles written about the reason for the crash is the toxic management theories taught by management professors. And I think this was one of, shall we say, the clarion calls for business schools to rethink their purpose. And is it all about profit maximization, as Milton Friedman said, right? Maximizing shareholder value? Or is the goal to be larger, people, purpose, right, in addition to profits? So this is something which certainly business schools have been looking at and trying to rethink their business models. What are they there to do? What are the goals of a business school? And, you know, we can even think who basically would push society forward. So way back when business schools started, there was this sort of inherent idea that business schools are not only there to make, shall we say, leaders who can make money, that there's a higher purpose. Business schools play a role in business, and business, of course, plays a role in the economy. So business schools are fundamental, and we have to ask ourselves, what is fundamental about business schools today? And about, shall we say, MBA programs in particular. And again, the idea is rethinking what's important. So we're an accredited business school. We're accredited by AACSB, which you're probably aware of. It's the leading business school accreditation body in the world. Very few schools are accredited by ACSB. Our MBA program has been accredited by AMBA for many, many years now. Again, very few MBA programs are accredited by AMBA, so we're double accredited. For a business school that is our size, that's quite an accomplishment. Okay, so we're very proud of that. But even within these accreditation bodies, there are standards where schools have to demonstrate that what they are doing has a societal impact, a positive social impact. And we here at IUM have been doing this for several years now, in many different ways. So one of the things I'd like to talk about briefly is the Monaco Ocean Protection Challenge, which was created in 2017. Correct me if I'm wrong, Sophie. And basically the idea is to encourage young students, young entrepreneurs, to create business plans which have at its heart how to preserve our oceans. And again, this is something which is very close to Monaco. Of course, Prince Albert I was very much involved in the oceans, the Oceanographic Museum. Also very close to the heart of His Serene Highness Prince Albert II. So for IUM, the idea of creating a business plan competition open to students and entrepreneurs around the world to come up with business plans, feasible, implementable ideas to help our oceans is a real part of our, shall we say, our operating DNA. Because the idea of sustainability, you know, we now hear about ESG is important and impact investing is important. And of course we have courses beneficial for the oceans. And again, there are many, many, shall we say, areas we could look at. You know, if you look at what's challenging business schools today, challenging business today, of course, geopolitical trends, right? Of course, digital trends. But here in Monaco, you know, we have to choose our battles carefully. And in Monaco, the ocean is very important. in Monaco, there are several organizations which are very much dedicated to preserving our oceans. We don't work alone. I don't think any business school can hope to make any progress by only working alone. So we work with the Oceanographic Museum for the Monaco Ocean Protection Challenge. We work with Monaco Impact, which is a non-profit organization dedicated to promoting and developing projects that have a positive social and environmental impact. And of course, we also work with the Prince Albert II Foundation. So together, we're trying to basically establish a new way of doing business and a new way of looking at business education, whereby students are actively involved in rethinking business models, not just learning about new business models, rethinking business models and putting them into practice with, at its core, sustainability and social impact. So this is part of, let's say, the ethos of IUM, of all of the programs. I speak in particular for the MBA, but we have an entrepreneurial mindset where sustainability is at the core. It's not just about making a profitable idea, having a profitable business. It's also having sustainability at its core. We have another entrepreneurial business plan competition called the MARC, which is open again to schools and entrepreneurs around the world. And again, here too, the idea is to, of course, have a business plan. The market looks in particular at premium and luxury goods, but always with a social impact involved as well. So no business plan can even get through the first round if there's not a clear social impact statement within it. So again, this is what we're trying to do at IOM. We're small, we're entrepreneurial, like Monaco, so I think we reflect the best of Monaco, and we're also very happy to greet you here at the business school, and I hope you have a wonderful day and great sessions, and enjoy. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Malika. And I think that's very interesting. 3 very special participants who are actually logging on. I believe one is in Berlin, if I'm not mistaken. He's been traveling around a lot. James, and then Zoe and Cassia, who are currently in the States. So thank you so much for logging on at such an early time. They work at Ocean Global, and I will not butcher it by trying to explain everything that they do. So I'll just hand over the floor to you guys.
We can't hear you guys, so if you could unmute, that would be great. All right, awesome.
Awesome.
All right, thanks.
Welcome, guys.
Hi, everyone. My name is James Ermlich. I'm the Director of Strategic Development for Oceanic Global. I've been working with the organization since about 2016. I'm also a young leader for Monaco Private Label. And I'm just here to share with you kind of who we are, what we've been up to, and our theory of change. And then I'll pass it off to the rest of my team. So I joined Oceanic Global in 2016. At the time, we were working on the first step in our process of change, which was, waking the village and telling the people, getting the word out. And to do that, we did an awesome event in Ibiza. We had a festival for the oceans. Salman was headlining. It was a lot of fun. And we brought about 4,500 people out to educate them on the need to make a change in our behavior when it comes to dealing with single-use plastics. And what we realized as part of that process was it wasn't merely enough to educate people on the way to be cleaner in how we address the oceans and be better about maintaining our natural world. Just as a seed doesn't grow without soil, without sunlight, without water, an idea can't grow into action without being empowered. And in order to empower people, we came up with a set of solutions that enable people to take action themselves. This set of solutions first started out as the Oceanic Standard, and we helped roll it out to nearly 400 businesses so far, as well as a number of major corporations, which has allowed us to reduce 550,000 tons of plastic waste from the ocean so far. How this Oceanic Standard model, which we have, has helped us take businesses from varying levels of plastic free, things like removing plastic straws, all the way to a complete overhaul of practices and inventory in order to address this set of problems in a way that enabled consumers to make positive choices through being able to go through businesses that would help them do so. the oceanic standard has now evolved into the blue standard, which is a wider reaching set of principles. And to talk about that, here are Zoe and Cassia from Oceanic.
Thank you so much, James. And hi, all. Please excuse the mask because I'm in a public space. My name is Cassie Patel. I'm the Director of Programs at Oceanic Global. And to share is a beautiful context that James had to really share how our theory of change at Oceanic Global is to drive scalable behavior change. So looking at the actions that we can take as individuals within our community, as a business, to really drive wider reaching, further impactful shifts in procurement, ultimately shifts in behavior and choices that we're able to make, and tying that together, but also using both levers of action to support policy reform and the framework that can support and mobilize these shifts. We're definitely seeing consumer demand driving businesses towards sustainable leadership. We're also seeing policy frameworks, including the Global Plastics Treaty, which just passed as a resolution at UNEA 5.2 in Nairobi recently. So we're excited to see these global frameworks and monitoring being set at that level. And I will at this point pass it over to Zoe, who is our Blue Standard Director, to really walk you through in detail what this program offers and to share how this can even be applied at a destination level. We're working on projects in island areas and economies. We're working at projects. It doesn't have to be coastal. We're an ocean nonprofit, so we do tend to focus on coastal regions, but to really envision how this might even look at for a place like Monaco as well.
Thank you so much, Cassia. Thank you so much, James. I'm so excited to be here and that we were able to tune in. So I'm going to take the next few minutes to really walk you through what the Blue Standard is, how it works, the different arms of Blue as well. And then hopefully, I could spend all day talking about this, but hopefully I could do it in about 6 or 7 minutes, and there will be some time for questions as well. So Blue is really a first of its kind standard. So my background comes from sustainability and specifically sustainability standards, working and developing them for different types of organizations, different types of industry. And so when looking at Blue, it was really the first time that looking at specifically single-use plastics and then adding a broader comprehensive sustainability measure into it has been done. So we were really excited to look at this landscape with fresh eyes, hear what our clients, hear what industry really needed and wanted, and then to develop from there, knowing that we could develop something that really had the ability to make an impact, to really have to work synergistically when we look towards a plastic-free future. So looking at the business operations side, it's a 3-star model. So it's what we wanted to really focus on is this idea of scalable change. So we recognize that businesses are really entering the journey at different parts, their sustainability journey at different places. So some companies are really, just dipping their toe in it and want to make a commitment, but need some direction on where to start. And some companies have been operating to the most highest sustainable standards for a long time. So with that 3-star approach, businesses are able to show incremental change, with 1 star being almost at entry level with removing 3 single-use plastic items and implementing 1 blue action, and a blue action is a more comprehensive sustainability measure. And then it jumps up to that 2-tier. And then finally, our highest tier is that 3-star plastic-free badge. And so that's when businesses are really at the point where they're removing all single-use plastic items from their operations and implementing more of those blue actions, looking at it from more comprehensive sustainability lens. Looking at the product and packaging seal, this is really for the consumer packaged goods sector. So we'll get into all the sectors that are applicable for the 3-star seal. But the product and packaging is really looking at consumer goods and really pushing the industry forward to make that shift. Like the incremental change with the 3 stars, we do have the product seal, which is for both the product itself and its associated packaging. And then we have the packaging seal. We recognize that Some products, it's a limitation that they can't go plastic free. A lot of electronics need those plastics right now, but they still want to make a sustainable commitment. So that lighter touch is looking at the packaging seal, making sure the packaging is all plastic free. But for those products that have really done their due diligence and really have created a product that's completely plastic free, we do have that product seal, and you can see what these two look like here. And some of the things that we look at when we're looking at the seal, if someone's eligible for it, is we really take a hard look at what the materiality of it, making sure that there is no plastic, there won't be microplastics, making sure there's an end-of-life strategy, waste that is compatible with waste management, and really what the material sourcing looks like. So it's this comprehensive view of what really goes into what a plastic-free product would look like. Looking at our impact, James talked about this a little bit, and I'm just going to show this quick snapshot of where we're at. And honestly, we put this together just a few weeks ago when this is already, these numbers have already increased. So we're seeing amazing just momentum behind, people and businesses really wanting to make the commitment and take the next step to officially remove plastics and single-use plastics from their operations. So like James said, we have over 400 businesses globally. So one thing that Blue is, what we really pride ourselves on is it's a solution that fits regardless of where you are in the world. We're in 26 countries. We have over 6 island-wide projects. This number is actually going to be increasing quite a bit as we have some exciting island-wide projects rolling out in the next few weeks. And what that really looks like is how can we integrate Blue into every aspect of an island community, from the hospitality sectors, the restaurants, the hotels, to, really involving the community, getting the community active in being trained on Blue, and even working with schools when it's possible, getting everyone really excited and aligned on that island-wide level. So that's really exciting for us. And then I also just want to note that we do also work on the policy side. So Blue is really important as a tool to start these conversations, to show tangible change. But we also recognize that being able to change policy on the state and national level globally or state, national, or global level, as Cassia just said, that plastics treaty just went through the next steps, is so critical, because it's important that it comes from both ends. So not only from the end user, the business, but also from that top down, that policy side. So that's a really key part of the work at both Oceanic Global and that Blue is a part of. And so that's really exciting to be in those conversations and to help see that change through. When we look at the programs for the 3-star seal, it focuses on hospitality, music, events, office spaces, and sports. And then that CPG is the product and packaging seal. And what I also just want to mention is Blue is really applicable to a lot of different types of industry. So although these are our most common ones, if there's something that's a little bit unique, that still wants to go for it, we can definitely work with that organization to rework Blue a little bit to meet what their requirements would be in a specific sector or a specific industry. So just keeping that in mind, that it is something that's very wide-reaching and can be applied in a lot of different scenarios. Just looking at hospitality, music, I just wanted to show these slides, some of the big names that we've been working with. You'll see large hotel chains, big music venues, artists, some great events with office spaces. We're seeing so much traction in the office space world. In my background, I worked in a lot of office spaces, and Blue's a really nice, visible way to show your employees that you're making a commitment to the environment. All of these have a strong impact on ESG reporting as well. We know investors are and boards are really interested to have some accountability, and working through Blue is a great tool to show that as well. One thing, we are a nonprofit, and we really do believe education and access to information is of critical importance. So we make sure that all of our information is free and open sourced to anyone who's interested. So we make sure we have free industry guides that really walk you through the whole, not only the whole process, but what we're looking for when we're looking to remove plastic free, or remove plastic from our operations, our business operations. So if you have some free time, I definitely encourage you to explore the guides on our website, bluestandard.com. It's really a great resource to get the seal itself. There is a fee associated with it, but that's just a small fee to keep our program running and expanding and being able to reach as many not only areas but industries as possible. But these free industry guides really were the foundation of where we started originally when we launched the standard, and just continue that as well. We have something called the Blue List. This is a list of vetted alternatives to plastic items that can be used within a Blue verified business. So when companies and businesses come to us looking to make that switch, we already have a curated list, almost a curated platform where we can make these suggestions that we know these products are a good solution and can seamlessly work into the operations. Here's just some benefits of going Blue. I'm going to just speed through those since we're a little short on time. How it works, just really quickly: you register your business, you connect with a consultant. We have a global network of consultants that we train we have a free training to make sure this is accessible globally. You complete an assessment and submit your documentation, and then you earn your seal. Just quickly on our Blue Consultant Network, that's what I just mentioned before. We really think it's important that this is accessible globally. So we do free industry trainings for anyone who's interested in becoming a Blue consultant, so then they could bring it to their communities and their businesses wherever they're located. And then we do have a Blue Grants program, so something that is really critical to who we are and the impact we know we need to have is working at communities at all different scales. So we know that the big corporates are very important, the big hotel chains, those are really important, but we also want to make sure that those small mom and pop shops are being reached and have the resources available to them, that those, we talk about island-wide, that everyone has a chance to participate in the program that's interested in it. So the Blue Grants program is a way that businesses can fund projects in locations that are important to them. So either a location that they're in, or a location that's special to their business, to really make sure that sustainability in Blue is accessible to all. And finally, I just wanted to introduce the team. One thing that's very important to note is we do have an advisory board of industry specialists and people who are experts in their field, all contributing to Blue. So as the Blue team, we all are experts in sustainability and in our field, but we know that Blue really goes above and beyond, tapping on green chemistry and climate change, waste management, hospitality. And so we pulled in people who this is their expertise, and they help contribute and make the standard what it is today. Okay, I know we're a little bit over. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. It was a whirlwind. I do want to also mention everything can be found on bluestandard.com. If you have any questions, you can reach out to Blue at oceanic.global. And of course, we're here for any questions. And I'm going to pass it off. We're a little bit over, so I don't think we have time for questions. But if we did, we're happy to wait a minute or two.
I think we're at time now. But thank you so much, Zoe. It's such an interesting project, and I think while we were sort of discussing it and meeting a little bit more, it's just interesting seeing how you guys are really taking the initiative to make concrete impacts on the world and on everything that needs shifting. So thank you so much for saying bye to Zoe.
Thank you, everyone.
And the team. Thank you so much, Patrick.
Same mic?
Same mic.
Should I stand here?
Sounds perfect, or we can sit here.
Okay.
As you prefer.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Good morning. First of all, I'd like to thank Michelle, Andrea for inviting me to join MPL and also give me a chance to share with all of you here and online, especially to try to share some stories with the younger members, who are the young leaders who are the future. So my name is Patrick Sang. We're going to talk about today the transition of our family business, how we evolved from a bunch of farmer guys in Hong Kong to a global family office today. Is there like a switch thing, or they do it for us? Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, next slide. So my name is Patrick Sang. I'm the chairman of Sang's Group. We are a fourth generation single family office. I was actually born and raised in Belfast, Northern Ireland, in Europe. During the Troubles, a long time ago. My family is originally from Hong Kong. I'm also a qualified solicitor in Hong Kong and also in England and Wales. So for some of you, the younger guys who don't know, sophisticated family office that we invest globally, specializing in technology. I started off as a lawyer in studying in London. I moved to Hong Kong, the family home, in the late 90s, became a lawyer, qualified. I did that for 3 or 4 years, realizing that actually law is not really suited for myself. I didn't really understand or knew exactly where I wanted to go to. But from a immigrant family growing up in Europe, the typical immigrant story is you wanted to be, your father and your mother wanted you to become a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer, accountant. I ended up becoming a lawyer, and I then realized very quickly that I didn't want to be. So luckily I made the probably pretty dumb at the time, but it was I think it was a courageous step that made me change into something else. Can we have the next slide, please? This is the logo of Sang's Group. What we see in Chinese culture, 8, the sound of 8 sounds like rich or wealth. Also, the infinity sign, no matter which angle you look from, it looks like 8. So what this represents is this is the east, this is the west, and this is the bridge, and we try to bridge east to west and west to east. And I think it's a very important time now because of a number of crises, including COVID and also the Ukraine crisis right now, that it's very important to have this bridge. I also like to point out that Monaco is also a very special place because it's very neutral. It stays out of politics. It bridges many different places. It embraces all different kinds of cultures and people to welcome them for business, investment, education, tourism, culture. I was saying to Michelle that the opera yesterday was a outstanding piece of contribution to the event. Can we have the next slide? This is our tagline. It's think global, be local. We try to think really big, as global as possible, instead of being restricted to one thing or one geographical location. But in order to succeed, I believe that you have to have very important local knowledge. You need to have local partners in any territory that you operate out of. So you try to combine a global vision with, the local know-how. Next slide, please. So our mission is to invest into global opportunities. We are sector and location agnostic. We try to invest into industries which have a global positive impact and influence. So we don't touch things like drugs, defense, alcohol, tobacco, sex. We try to give back as much as possible. I think allowed him to be able to leave the village to get a job in the city. And then one day he left from Hong Kong to the UK, which changed the lives of the family. So education is a very important pillar of our family. Next slide, please. These are the 3 impact pillars that we have for the family office. 1, as I said, is education. 2 is youth empowerment. It's my responsibility, the company's responsibility now to give back to the younger people, to hopefully pass on some of the knowledge, the resources that we have, so that they can go on and do a better job that we have. And then, obviously, lastly but not least, is shaping a better future. Next slide, please. So what we have here is, I just want to say this is what we're trying to do is with our traditions, the lessons, we want to make progress so that we can not only just hear the last sentence is like financial gain, but it's progress and positive impact. And I think what we've become is in alignment with what Monaco is trying to do, what MPL is trying to do, and I'm very happy to join this initiative to hopefully contribute our 2 cents to hopefully make this even better. I don't think we have a next slide. Do we have a next slide? Oh, that's just my contact details if everyone wants to talk to me. Let me see from my notes if I've missed anything. Just 2, 3 more points just before I finish off. I think crisis is something that we've been talking about a lot. In Cantonese, crisis is ngai gei, which is made of 2 characters. Ngai means danger, and gei means opportunity. So in every crisis, there's always an opportunity. So obviously, war, crisis is not a good thing, but we have to be able to monopolize on how the world is changing and to be able to act fast to take initiative of investment opportunities. The sectors that we like particularly right now is like fintech and food tech. I think some of the speakers yesterday were talking a little bit about food tech. We're also a founding member of the Hong Kong-Israel Investment Association. The Israel tech is obviously very highly innovative, where we're trying to invest a lot into food tech and also like lab-grown meat and also, proteins from insects, just because of the overpopulation and just lack of resources for the global demand. And I would just like to leave the food for thought for everyone. We mentioned about the journey or the destination, what is more important. I think they're equally as important. The destination is obviously important because I think everyone needs an end goal of somewhere to target towards. The journey is also obviously very important also because it's also being present and enjoying each step, each mistake, each failure to get there. But I think I saw a meme somewhere. The little dragon is sitting on the big panda and they're walking, and the big panda asks the little dragon, what is more important? Is it the journey or is it the destination? And the tiny dragon replies to the big panda, it's the company. So I think along the way, on your own, we're not able to go as far as we can if we run together. So I encourage everyone to work together to leave our differences aside and to strive for the bigger goal, which is hopefully to battle big things like what we just saw, like ocean problems, climate change. And if we work together, we can achieve anything. And my personal motto is anything is possible. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you so much. He's very interesting to speak to, so if you guys do want to take his contact information. Now we'll be talking with William Pitty. I won't try to say his last name because I think he will say that better than I. We're going to be talking a little bit about ESG, sustainability, and really where we're going with that, in particular in investments. He works with the Qatari Sovereign Fund and a lot of experience in that sector. So please, William, if you would like to join me upstage.
Is it okay if I just pull up my notes? Just that we have some numbers and I actually don't want to forget or mess them up. So there you go. Hello.
We'll just share it. So first of all, if you could just tell us a little bit more about yourself, a little bit of background as to how you got to where you are, what you do exactly, just to frame the conversation a little bit.
Sure. So my name is William Pitti Sonswat. You can always call me William Pitti. Anyway, I went to school in Boston at Northeastern University. I finished in 2012. Then I moved to the UK, where I did my master's in management at Warwick Business School. And after I moved to London, I started working in private equity at Alvarium Investments, which is today a AUM 20 billion private equity fund that targets family offices. We invest on real estate and so on. So I specialize in real estate and then stayed there until around 2019 when one of my best friends from school invited me to become his advisor at the sovereign wealth fund that he works at. So fast forward to these days, I cover various sectors, mostly real estate, infrastructure, and more and more tech, as well as healthcare. I advise the Americas team, so most of my investment portfolios that I look after are in the U.S. and we usually invest in larger ticket size, 200 million plus for one check across all the sectors.
Amazing, thank you. And so within this investment, we're going to be talking about ESG, as we said, but can we maybe place that a little bit? I know that we have all ranges of profession here, so could you explain a little bit what ESG is and what we're seeing particularly now?
Broadly speaking, it's the investments into areas that would improve the environment, governance, as well as social responsibilities. One of the things I want to focus today, given the limitation of time, is the environmental part. Decarbonization is a very, very important step that we have to take in order to ensure that the world doesn't warm up above 2 degrees in 2050, which is what the Paris Agreement aims for. And going forward to that, it is estimated that in order to achieve the below 2 degrees of warming, there has to be at least almost 60 trillion worth of aggregate investment that has to go into such sector from now until 2050. So given those opportunities, there's quite a lot for us to do. This accounts for around like 3% of annual global GDP that we have to invest. Without this sort of investment, it is very much likely that warming will definitely be above 2 or 3.
That's really interesting. So one thing that I've learned throughout the process of this study is that these changes are happening. This climate risk is real. It's going to happen. So whether we get on the boat and start making those investments today or tomorrow, it's going to start affecting our portfolios. That also represents a lot of opportunities. Can you tell me a little bit about where those opportunities are when it comes to investment, new technologies?
Definitely. So in order to, sort of like address the opportunities, one has to at first look at the source of carbon emission. Well, as of 2019, it is broken down in such a way that 51% of the carbon emission comes from energy usage. Household, sort of like industrial and businesses. Also, like 24% of that actually comes from agriculture. Both from like sort of like deforestation as well as like just carbon emissions from sources of protein. 21% comes from manufacturing, and 14% is transportation. So when we have all these numbers, we can look into sort of like what we could do in order to minimize these things. One is alternative power generation, for example. More linear sort of like manufacturing process, and alternative transportation that require less or no like fossil fuels. So countries have set up that goal. So in Europe, in the US, everyone knows that they want to make sure that by 2035, for example, the new sort of cars cannot be internal combustion engine like powered, and all the new car sales will involve electric vehicles. Then also like things like most of the large companies that are listed in the FTSE 100, for example, have goals that within 2050 they want to be net neutral. Some other companies are even more ambitious. Heathrow Airport, for example, wants itself to be fully carbon neutral by 2035. Again, well, that also leaves airlines, who are actually not part of the airport themselves to also try to commit to the same goal. It would be a bit more difficult on their side. The cash flow, for example, these days have become a lot more attractive for low emission investments. For example, it is now actually cheaper to generate power in Kansas from wind than say oil and gas, which was pretty much like the main sort of energy that has been used to power plants there, and obviously coal. So obviously it has become a lot more attractive. The M&A on the M&A side of things, you could see that the number of deal flow and deal execution has been skyrocketing. In 2019 alone, transaction has actually topped USD 100 billion in terms of M&A, and there was as much as 300 billion going into new projects in decarbonization. We also see like a falling cost of manufacturing for technologies that you need to have them in order to fulfill this decarbonization goal. Lithium-ion battery, which is the most important part of electric vehicles, as well as power plants, because they are the same technology is used to store excess energy that are generated from sort of solar cell and wind power plants. Those constitute to, for example, like 50% of the manufacturing cost of an electric car, which in the past meant that the electric car was extremely expensive. But in terms of price per like kilowatt hour, back in 2010 it was like 1,100. Guess how much it was back in 2019? 130. So it decreased almost like 90%, and within the next
planet, but also there's a lot of opportunity there. There's a lot of chances to be innovators. So we are running a little bit short on time, but there is one more question that I wanted to ask, perhaps the geographical trends that we're seeing happening. I think that's really interesting. There's within these opportunities being a lot of shifts in power worldwide, and I know you work with funds that have interests in different places. So if you could maybe touch on that.
Sure, definitely. So first of all, you have the we could start from the Middle East, for example. Like there are two kinds of sovereign funds. I work with quite many institutions, and I can identify that there are two types of sort of government funds. Ones that are very active in terms of their own investments, as well as the ones that are a bit, sort of less hands-on. The ones that are hands-on have invested immensely into building up their own sort of alternative energy supply chain within their country. I mean, the PIF, which is the investment fund of Saudi Arabia, for example, has committed 51% equity stake into building a 1,500 megawatt solar power plant. And Mubadala, which is the Abu Dhabi's fund, have invested so much that its current AUM in renewable energy is 20 billion. Then you have people in, the Canadians and the Dutch are very well advanced in this space. The Dutch fund, for example, APG and PGGM, both of them have 10 to 20% of their entire portfolio actually classify as sustainable, and that's we're talking about a fund that's like 600 billion. And you have people like the Norwegian funds who have just tried to actually sell all the investments that are related to carbon emission and cut that down extremely. On the other side, you also have the governments themselves that start to realize that supply chain is pretty much tilted. I mean, when we talk about, for example, electric batteries as well as solar cells, the entire supply chain of those things are actually in control of the East. The Chinese companies are pretty much ahead of the West. In the electric vehicle battery, one company called CATL, which is actually based in China, which has a market cap of 150 billion, actually controls like more than 30% of the entire battery production in the world. So the West is a lot behind that. We have the same thing with solar cells. It becomes cheaper. It becomes a lot more accessible for people to have it at their homes. But if you look at it, America can only actually manufacture them. But the entire value chain of it, when you're talking about like rare earth materials, and also like wafer production, they all came from Chinese companies. So, in the West, the governments are trying their best to sort of like give initiatives for local companies or locally incorporated companies to actually tackle this kind of supply chain. It will take a while, but it is, quite necessary, especially in a world where decoupling is happening.
Thank you so much, William. I mean, I could ask like 5 more questions, but we don't have enough time. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing all that you do and all the interesting knowledge that you have.
Thank you very much. I wish that I had more time.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation.
Thank you very much.
So now we're going to go on with Sebastian Delaney. This is changing gears a little bit. Very much looking at younger generations, we have a lot of new opportunities in the world. We have a lot of new business opportunities and careers that we're pursuing. Sebastian, we actually went to middle school together here in Monaco, so also demonstrates the power of such a little country into really forging relationships and friendships. So, hi, Seb, welcome.
Hello. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
How are you?
It's been a while.
Hello.
So, Seb, thank you for joining us. I think, first of all, just if you could introduce yourself briefly and who you are.
So, yeah, it's funny to see you here because we went to middle school together. But I'm Sebastian Delaney. I grew up kind of 10 minutes from here, not too far away. And I'm a YouTuber. I do videos on YouTube. I post it on Instagram. I do loads of work on just all sorts of social networks. I'm a real petrol head. And yeah, I think we've come to talk about social media, the power of social media. It's completely changed my life. I'll tell the story a little bit, as we get into it. But yeah, I kind of fell on my feet a little bit because it wasn't anything that was necessarily planned from day one. But I've been, firsthand experienced the effects that social media can have and how much it can change a business and a life.
Awesome, thank you. So you started when you were 13. I remember this because you were always talking about cars. And you turned this hobby into your profession. I mean, as you were saying, you really, really changed your life. Can you talk a little bit about how you were able to professionalize a hobby?
Yeah, so yeah, I started when I was like, I know I don't look like the oldest person, but I'm older than 13 now. It's been a little while. I'm 25 now, but yeah, I started posting on YouTube kind of by accident, to be honest. My grandfather really, really liked cars. He didn't have access to any cars, but he was a huge fan of them, so we always had magazines kind of lying around the house. And when I would go to his house, I would read these car magazines, and I was obsessed. I was reading them all the time. I would, cut out a page with my favorite car and bring it home. And when I would come back here, and my dad was working in Monaco, and I was going to school and stuff, I would see all these crazy cars. So I wanted to send him photos, I wanted to send him videos, and there wasn't WeTransfer, there wasn't Google Drive or any stuff like that. So all there was YouTube. I was filming on an iPod Touch at the time. I was out of memory, so I needed to I needed to, put the videos somewhere because I didn't have any memory left. And bit by bit, as I was putting these videos on YouTube, I noticed instead of having 2 views, 3 views, it would have like 30, 40 views. And I was like, what? I don't know, like 30, 40 people are going to be watching these videos, right? So bit by bit, it took a long time. When I was maybe 15, 16, I started getting, more and more views and realizing that there was maybe a little bit of an opportunity here. Back in the day, if you had, let's say, 1,000 views, that was like the equivalent of 1 million views today. I just started realizing there was maybe an opportunity to monetize this. I remember someone came up to me with he was making caps, and he said, look, if you wear my cap in my video, I'll give you the cap for free. And I was like, okay, so if I get my views up, it's only a matter of time before, there's actually kind of a transaction there where it'll be worth them more just like the free cap. So I started making more and more videos, studying, the videos that would do well, what thumbnail would I put, how important was retention in the videos, how important is the title, what subjects work well. And bit by bit, turned this into a little bit more of a business. And then from one day to the next, YouTube switched on monetization as well. So that changed everything for us because now we were getting, payback for the actual views that we were getting. And then been kind of riding that wave out until today and really enjoying it.
Fantastic. And I think that you've continued to monetize that into separate businesses and grown and really just become an entrepreneur in that sense. Maybe can you briefly discuss that?
Yeah, so YouTube, Instagram, everything, it's fantastic. And, you get to share what you love, you get to share your story. And obviously there's the financial benefits of also having that audience and the views and the sponsorships you'll get through that. But it's fairly unpredictable because you may have one video where you have 3 videos that go viral, you have a bunch of sponsors, and then the next month you won't be having that. So it's very, very up and down. And which when I was 18, 19, 20, I didn't really care about, to be honest. I was living my life, having a great time. But then as I was growing up, I was like, okay, how sustainable is this long term? I'm going to need to find a way to work this as a long-term plan as I grow up. Finally, and wanted to start businesses alongside that monetize this audience that I had made. So that's anything from merchandising to also being able to monetize the knowledge, because I started realizing that the rarest kind of commodity in this new social and digital marketing world was experience, and I'd been doing this every day since I was 13. So I knew how to understand and manipulate algorithms in a way that benefited a business, how to grow an audience, and all of these things were, rare commodities. So, put together structures where we would advise whether it was other YouTubers, whether it was athletes, whether it was businesses, on how to best optimize their audience and grow their audience, as well as then also growing various different business projects that would monetize the audience. So whether it's rental real estate, where we could point an audience in a certain direction. And that's how it kind of grew from a business standpoint. But also what I think was important, and I think we'll get onto this, is also how things changed during COVID. As things would grow, I started really thinking about monetizing this and growing it as a business is one thing, it's important. But also, what do you want your message to be? You've now grown this audience, great, and you kind of can get stuck on this ferro wheel of always wanting to grow, make more content, and constantly just grow your business. But what are you going to do with that audience now? Became something which was more important, especially during COVID, where we had to reinvent everything, for us. And it's become really important for me to share a good message, at least in the industry that I work in, point a lot towards the future technologies in the car world. We've been speaking about it a lot, and obviously there's a lot of knowledge on it, so I won't get too much into it. But, what I'm trying to do also with the various businesses that we've done now is use the audiences that we've grown and realize the impact and the power of being able to shine a light in a certain direction and make sure we're shining the light in the right direction.
Fantastic. And you touched briefly about COVID, but so what exactly changed there? How did you deal with that?
So the kind of misconception is that COVID was brilliant for us. It was in many ways because a lot of people were at home and were watching YouTube and were online and yeah, really, consuming a lot of content. So views and everything were the best they'd ever been, but there was a lot less compensation for the views. So, brands weren't sponsoring as much. There wasn't as much kind of finance coming in. So we had to reinvent the business model, basically, into monetizing our audiences ourselves and creating businesses that would generate the income. Because once you've got the YouTube channel, and you'll end up having editors and agents, and everyone becomes a real business. So you also have the bills to pay for all of that. So it really became for me, how do I become less reliant on external sources bringing in the income through the YouTube videos. I've got the biggest audience I've ever had, yet it's not working like it used to. So it became kind of apparent that merchandising was one thing we would get into. So I started making shoes. I really like shoes, so started making some shoes. And as I said, kind of rental real estate and adapting things in there. And kind of just trying to adapt my YouTube channel and the videos that I was putting out to also have some sort of an educational side of what was going on in the world as well. So rather than just keeping it focused on kind of the cars and everything was in there, we would do sit-down chats, started a podcast where we would dive deeper into kind of our views and certain things. And yeah, so it was an interesting time for everybody, but including those that were on YouTube.
Amazing. So I think we're running short on time already, but quickly, as we mentioned, we went to school here, you grew up 5 minutes from here. How has Monaco played a role in your career and your development of this?
I mean, it's been so important. It's changed everything for me. I mean, first of all, if you like cars, this is a brilliant place to be. So it provided me with kind of endless content, which I was kind of really fortunate to have. But then also, it's been so open to this new digital era. I've been able to meet so many people that have supported me along the way, and be able to also give my knowledge, give my experience to a lot of friends, partners, businesses around here. And the kind of spirit of all the doors are open, will support someone that's kind of young and up and coming, and the entrepreneurship side, I think, is something that you don't hear about all that much, that I've been exposed to a lot, is just how much there is kind of this drive from the people in Monaco to help each other, but to open a lot of doors, and the doors that can be opened here are really important, really kind of life-changing doors. And so for me, I'm so happy to be here today, and to have been able to be in Monaco and around Monaco during this whole journey. So it's changed everything for me, and I wouldn't be able to have the YouTube channel and the audience I have had.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining. Follow us on YouTube.
Good to see you.
And you too. And now we have one session again from someone logging in the States, Ben Gatti with Breakthrough Fellows. We spoke to the Breakthrough Institute yesterday briefly in one of our sessions. So now he's going to go into a little bit more detail of the fellowship program that they have. I believe he should be admitted briefly. There he is. Hi, Ben.
Hello.
Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I just finished introducing you briefly, but I'll give you the floor and just let you take it away.
That's wonderful. I wonder if it's possible to share a slide. I'd like to play a video featuring our founder, Bill Gates.
I believe that is possible. Our technicians are just... You're all set. There you go.
They're starting garages. Well, for a lot of people, that's not far from the truth. When Paul Allen and I decided to start Microsoft in 1975, I was in my college dorm room. But clean energy innovation is different than software. A person writing code only needs to pay for their computer, electricity, network, and maybe even some Cheetos. But if you're inventing climate breakthroughs like zero carbon cement or clean hydrogen, you need a lot more, like scanning electron microscopes, X-ray diffractometers, and it's hard to get going. Investors have been reluctant to back these new climate technologies because clean cement is the same as regular cement. You're just changing the manufacturing process. But with climate, we have a deadline. We know we need a lot of innovation to get from 51 billion tons of emissions all the way to zero by 2050 to avoid a climate disaster. And so we want it to be easy for anybody who's got an idea to work on that problem. And that's why we're launching Breakthrough Energy Fellows. Unlike other accelerator incubator programs, this one focuses on the particular needs of climate innovation. Through this program, we'll support hundreds of the best and brightest innovators out there, people with breakthrough ideas that have potential to reduce emissions by at least 500 million tons a year, or over 1% of the problem. We're starting in areas like zero carbon cement, steel and fertilizer, green hydrogen and electrofuels. These are early stage technologies, but we need them to reduce emissions. We'll provide annual grants, access to advice, and at the right stage, introduce commercial investors. The bottom line is to have impact. To have impact, technology has to more than simply work in the lab. It needs to scale up. This Fellows program is designed to support innovators at the beginning step. If we make it easy for them to go at full speed, they will make breakthroughs. And that will bring the cost of being cleaned down in a way that will lead to solving the climate crisis. I'm an optimist. I believe in the power of innovation to solve problems. To solve the problem of climate change, we have to accelerate innovation as much as we can. And that's exactly what Breakthrough Energy Fellows will do.
Good morning again. Here's a snapshot of our current global emissions. As I think we're all aware, everything we consume, eat, and build requires fossil fuels and releases emissions. As more people around the world achieve a higher quality of life, those emissions are only going to increase. And every year, as you heard Bill say, we add 51 billion tons of greenhouse gases to the atmosphere. If we're going to avoid a climate disaster, we have to get from 51 billion to zero in less than 30 years. About half of the emissions cuts that we need probably need to come from technologies that are not on the market yet, some of which we will identify and support through our Fellows program. Breakthrough Energy, founded by Bill Gates, is a network of funds, philanthropic initiatives, and advocacy organizations that exist to support climate technologies through the several valleys of death between the stages of basic scientific research, early startup and commercialization, and first deployments. I'm really excited to tell you more about our Fellows program, but I think we have to acknowledge what we're up against. We have to be honest with ourselves. Just like Bill said, climate technology is not like other innovation sectors. Unlike software and biotech, which attract significant venture capital funding, climate technology faces unique commercialization challenges which historically have scared away investors and left promising ideas stranded in the valley of death. When new carbon-free alternatives are first introduced, most are more expensive than the incumbent dirty technology. That's what we call the green premium. Unfortunately, for many of these technologies, there is no natural market. Not only do we have the green premium, but these innovations also have new constraints that the incumbents don't face. There's a lack of familiarity among customers, and they're not differentiated for their end users. Electricity is electricity, after all, whether it comes from coal or solar. So when we put these together, this has meant that the adoption of new clean technologies often has been slower than investors would like. Once these technologies do begin to prove themselves in pilots and demonstrations, they often run up against legacy infrastructure. As just one example, there's about $1 trillion of capital stock in existing cement plants alone. This existing stock can't always be converted to low carbon use cases, and new infrastructure takes time to build, not to mention significant upfront capital. Finally, industry R&D in these sectors has largely been focused on reducing costs and increasing performance rather than reducing emissions. All of this put together has meant that emerging climate technologies have struggled to bridge the gap from lab to widespread adoption. But as we said, in order to hit our 2050 goals, we need more innovators to start this journey. And we need to make sure they don't get trapped in the valley of death. We need to increase the number of climate and clean energy technologies on this path from lab to market. And not just by a little, but by 100 or 1,000 times. These innovators need access to key resources like lab space, non-dilutive funding, and experts and mentors from business and industry. They also need optionality in how they get to market. Not every breakthrough climate technology will be scaled through a venture capital-backed startup. That's why we're so excited about this Breakthrough Energy Fellows program. This program identifies the world's top innovators working on decarbonization technology and fully funds them and their technology for 2 years. We pair them with a cohort of business fellows. These are full-time industry experts who can complement the innovator skills and help bring their technology to market, and maybe even become a key member of their team. Most importantly, we plug them in to Breakthrough Energy's network of industry, government, and research partners to develop, validate, and demonstrate this technology. By the time they leave the program, these innovations will be on their way to widespread adoption. So let's talk about what the fellowship is. First of all, it's a program designed with the specific needs of innovators in mind. It provides 2 years of support. Fellows join the program full-time to focus on advancing climate technology and getting it ready for market. They don't need to relocate for our program, so that if they have a lab that works for them, they can stay where they are. And it's an international program, as I'll show you in a moment. During the program, fellows work in the lab or in the field to develop their technology and ready it for commercialization. We bring in outside speakers and experts to provide fellows with structured opportunities to strengthen their skills across topics like industrial marketing, finance management, and strategy. Fellows contribute to the field by publishing their scientific findings, though they retain all of the rights to their intellectual property. During the program, fellows receive a competitive stipend to cover their living expenses. And in addition, each innovation receives about $5 million in R&D grants from the Fellows program. Fellows have access to our industry partners who will help them identify commercially relevant milestones and contribute support for pilots and demonstrations. Fellows also benefit from the vast Breakthrough Energy network. They'll have access to industry mentors and advisors and build a powerful network of Fellows alumni. Last but not least, fellows will have access to breakthrough energy policy experts, both in the United States and in Europe. They'll have a seat at the policy-making table. It's really a privilege for us to be able to offer this level of support, which frankly is unprecedented in this space. And we've seen that we've been able to attract some of the very best and most talented innovators. So let's talk about who they are. In September, we welcomed our first cohort of Breakthrough Energy Fellows. Our 10 Innovator Fellows span 9 projects across steel, hydrogen, cement, electrofuels, and fertilizer. Innovator Fellows will typically have a technical background, and they enter the program to commercialize their climate technology. Of course, we recognize that many of these Innovator Fellows benefit from partnering with someone who has a complementary set of skills. So we're really excited about the Business Fellows. Business Fellows join the program full-time and lend their expertise and their experience to help innovators tackle specific business problems. And as I mentioned, potentially join the innovators team. Our first cohort includes teams from the United States, France, and New Zealand. I want to quickly tell you about one of our teams, Dioxical, which is based in Bordeaux, France. Sarah and David are building breakthrough electrochemical devices to convert CO2 water, and electricity into high-value chemicals and fuels. Their progress over the last several months has been truly astounding, and they're on a pathway to replace fossil-derived chemicals without a green premium. Thank you so much for inviting me to share this program with you. We're currently in the final stages of selecting our second cohort, which will be twice as big as cohort 1 and who will begin the program in September of 2022. In parallel, we're beginning the recruitment for cohort 3. I invite you all to participate in the growth of this unique fellowship. You can nominate a fellow if you come across a talented innovator or a compelling young executive. You could also volunteer as a mentor. For those of you who have started or run a business, sharing that firsthand experience is one of the best ways to give back to this innovator community. We also invite you to partner with us, whether via a company or as a philanthropic sponsor. This program is made possible, of course, by the Breakthrough Energy Foundation, but also generous support from the Trans-Zuckerberg Initiative and the Bezos Earth Fund. And we're fortunate to have many wonderful industry partners. Feel free to contact me directly for more information. So I want to close and thank you all again. I look forward to continuing this conversation and sharing the incredible progress that our fellows are making towards reaching a prosperous net zero economy.
Thank you so much. Really fascinating work, and I think a lot of the fellows demonstrate the importance of younger leaders and of people making a change and really, you know, taking responsibility for the changes that we're going to have to see. So thank you so much for joining us. I know it's early for you, so have a great rest of your day. And now we have one final session, and this one, okay. I'll talk briefly about the next session. So we have one final session. A lot of what we've been saying and talking about has been the importance of ESG, the importance of safeguarding the environment. But I personally barely know any, like, where would I even begin? I won't use plastic straws, but that's about it. But I personally know what to do. So what we've done is that we've teamed up with Northeastern University, which as International University of Monaco is another one of our partner universities, to create a master course for biodiversity. I think that the professor who will be joining us will be able to explain this a little bit more in more interesting detail. But taking care of the ocean is not only a business opportunity and a great opportunity for our future generations. It's important to do it for an educational perspective as well. So I believe he is on. I'll just give it a minute until the technicalities are all sorted out. There we go. Hi, Brian. Can you hear me? Hi, Brian. Can you hear me?
Hey, good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much.
I did a brief introduction while we were setting up all the tech on our side, that we have
Great.
this awesome master program, but I will let you take it away and give you the floor.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for allowing me to the course focuses on marine diversity and biological conservation. My name is Brian Helmuth. I'm a marine ecologist at Northeastern University in Boston. And I study the impacts of climate change and biodiversity, how we protect those natural ecosystems, and then how do we communicate that to the people that we depend on. But I want to let you into a little bit of a secret that I think is pretty common amongst people like myself who study climate impacts. Very few of my generation actually set out to become climate scientists. Instead, we were spurred on by people such as Jacques Cousteau. I wanted to be an ocean explorer. I wanted to witness firsthand all the amazing beauty that he so aptly described and shared with the world in his books and movies. And I think, like Cousteau, people like myself, marine ecologists who became climate scientists, felt some sort of magical draw to the ocean. And so, our dreams work a lot like this. We envision swimming with turtles, whales, dolphins, and of someday living at the bottom of the ocean in submerged cities. And to a large extent, I have been able to do things like that. I've traveled every continent, including Antarctica. I'm always amazed at the biodiversity that we encounter. More and more, though, when we look at scenes like this that we used to see pretty commonly, we come back a few months later and it looks something like this, with bleached or dead coral, a bunch of very confused fish swimming around, and then after the next storm, it becomes a parking lot. And so people like myself became climate scientists because we really didn't have a choice as we continued to see healthy ocean ecosystems decline, especially things like coral reefs. We also know a lot better now about how much we as a species depend on the ocean, how integrally human health is tied to ocean health, whether or not we recognize that or not. So as an example, half of the oxygen we breathe, every other breath you take is from oxygen produced by ocean organisms. Over 3 billion people, 40% of the world's population, depend on the biodiversity and services offered by marine and coastal ecosystems. And at the same time, we're really fundamentally learning how we continue to change our ocean, things like climate change and plastics pollution. All that said, the news is not all bad, and there still exist places like this. This is a reef in Curacao where we have started to work with the Cousteau team. Places that the ocean explorer Sylvia Earle calls hope spots. These are places that it may not be too late to preserve healthy ecosystems, the services that they provide. And as a parent of 2 daughters, I really cling to these examples as a source for optimism and drive, and to seek solutions that help preserve the ocean's ecosystems. So this course that we're running in June, what is it about? We will work with participants to help everyone understand what is marine biodiversity, how do we measure this, what do we use in the field, why is it important, what does it do for humans, what are the main threats to biodiversity, things like pollution, things like climate change, and how do we protect it. We'll also talk about how do we understand and communicate the threats to biodiversity and the solutions that we can enact. And then we'll get into what role does ocean exploration play. So this is a 4-day course. The first day is run by Professor Dan Distel, who runs the Ocean Genome Legacy at Northeastern University. We think of the Ocean Genome Legacy as the Library of Alexander for marine DNA. They collect DNA from around the planet, store it, and share it freely with anyone for research purposes. He will be joined by a number of panelists, Sir Richard Roberts, a Nobel Prize laureate who's associated with the Ocean Genome Legacy, another colleague of mine, Professor Steve Ballmer, who studies coral diseases, especially as it relates to human health and well-being. His area and Margot and Eric's is how do we tap biodiversity for chemical compounds that may be useful in medicine. They'll also talk a lot about the good and bad of bioprospecting. How do we benefit from ocean resources without damaging them further. One of the things we will do in this course is we'll draw on a number of case studies. This team, I'll introduce the other instructors in a minute. Our team has worked together on multiple expeditions and projects together. The first one, and I'll show you just a short video in a minute, is a submerged forest from 60,000 years ago, from 2 ice ages ago, that was on the coast of Alabama. Over time, it became completely covered by anoxic mud, which perfectly preserved it. It is a forest that we now think is about 9 miles wide, We have been diving on it. We have been pulling up wood that is so well preserved, it still has sap in it. It looks like it could be burned in a fireplace. But this has been an amazing source of looking for chemical compounds and organisms that live on wood, because wood tends to be pretty rare in the ocean. And so the density of habitat for these organisms in this 60,000-year-old forest, which was locked away for millennia and was uncovered only recently by hurricane, is a source of medicines. This is a video that was done by CNN that describes the project that we did.
Typically, when you find wood in the ocean, it's only one log or very few pieces. To be able to find an entire community of this size with wood-boring organisms is highly unusual.
New shipworms is something we're always interested in seeing. Every time we see new shipworm, we find new bacteria. So now those bacteria are going to have their genome sequenced, and then we will put them through the drug screening program that we screen for antimicrobials and for pain drugs, as well as anti-cancer drugs.
All right. So that's a great example of how we're just beginning to tap into this resource. Right now, there are, I think, 14 FDA-approved marine pharmaceuticals, 10 of those since 2010, and there are many more in the clinical phase of development, including one that was discovered as part of this project. But we know very little. I mean, we've heard many times we know less about the ocean floor than we do the surface of the moon, and it's absolutely true. And so the next cure for cancer probably is on the bottom of the ocean, and only about 5% of the oceans have been explored. So that'll be day one. It'll be an introduction to biodiversity and biopharmaceuticals. Day two, led by my colleague, Professor Mark Patterson, and joined by colleagues, Dr. Anna Pazaka and Ethan Edson, a graduate of Northeastern. We'll focus on some of the threats. And as a case study, we'll talk about microplastics, because I'm sure everyone has heard this is an emerging problem that, again, we're just realizing the depths of this. I find this statement that was made a while ago about plastics being in our bloodstream, because there was a study last week that showed that plastics actually were found in human bloodstreams, the markers. Plastics absorb toxins from the ocean and pass up our food chain. So we'll talk about how are plastics circulated, what are some of the risks, what do we know, what don't we know, how can we develop innovative technologies to measure where they are and potentially prevent them from flowing into the ocean through things like waste treatment plants. We'll extend that again into what can we do about it, and specifically what can the class participants do to reduce the plastic problem, not only in terms of cleaning it up, but preventing it from being put into the ocean in the first place, which involves changes in human behavior. Day three, the section I will lead, we're calling the informed decision maker, but it's pretty broad. We have a cognitive psychologist, Professor John Coley, who looks at how people perceive their environments. One of my senior graduate students, who also is the director of national collaborations at the Museum of Science in Boston, David Sittenfeld, is an expert in community science and engagement of people in decision making. So we will go through a pretty broad suite of questions and ideas. How do we co-create? Not the former model that we all know doesn't work is the loading dock model, where if you just throw a whole bunch of science at people, they're going to understand it. That doesn't work. So how do we co-develop with local communities, especially environmental justice communities, solutions for preserving biodiversity, for preparing for the impacts of things like climate change? John will get into how can we use cognitive psychology to understand how people perceive their environments, their connections to nature, whether they view themselves as part of nature or separate. Then how do we use approaches such as community science and serious gaming to promote pro-environmental behaviors? And all of this is couched in the critical need to ensure equitable participation, to make sure all the voices are at the table, to assure social justice in decision-making. And so class participants will take part in an exercise that we developed that was in a project that was led by David, where we have tapped into a network of museums around the United States, where we have made materials that facilitate deliberation and forces people to step outside their own shoes and think about environmental problems from the perspective of others within the community. And then how do we take those different voices and put them together to inform decisions at the community level? Lastly, we will get into what role does ocean exploration play in marine biodiversity preservation. One of my favorite quotes from Jacques Cousteau is that people protect what they love love what they understand, and they understand what they're taught. And recently, Ray Dalio made this statement that, we spent 65 years it's been 65 years since the moonshot, looking at the stars while the oceans and all the wonders and creations are sitting right at our feet. We need something grand. We need something to recapture the public's imagination to get them to understand ocean issues. So one of the roles I'm filling right now is I'm chief scientist on a project led by Jacques Cousteau's grandson, Fabien Cousteau. In fact, I just got back about 4 hours from New York City, where our team met with a designer to design and build the world's largest underwater habitat for research called Proteus, where we literally think of this as the equivalent of the International Space Station of the ocean floor. And we hope that this will be in the water by 2025. This will be an underwater laboratory on the ocean floor for everything from academic research to artists to filmmakers, bringing together as many different voices and ideas as we can to solve the world's most challenging environmental problems. And we do this through what's called saturation diving, where we live on the bottom of the ocean for weeks, even months at a time. The culmination of the course then will be on day 4, where we bring all this together, and all the instructors, including Fabien, will be there. And we'll go through an action plan that each participant in the course will develop on their own to decide how they can make a positive impact on marine biodiversity. So I encourage you to consider joining this class. We now have the website up. It's tinyurl.com/MPL biodiversity, where you can learn more about that. Feel free to email me. My email is there. I'm happy to answer any questions. And I think I have about 30 seconds left if there are any questions in the audience.
Has a question. Otherwise, I'm also available. I know most of you are probably joining us at lunch later, so I'm also available to answer any questions.
Sorry, I'm actually not hearing you right now.
Ah.
You're muted at your end.
There we go.
There we go, thanks.
There we go. I was just saying that if anyone has any questions, and otherwise we have a lunch after, so they're more than welcome to come up and ask them. I know we've been developing this for quite some time now, and it's really, really fascinating. Just really interesting information that I think not only me, just a lot of general public don't necessarily have access to this type of course if they're not already embedded in the field. So it's an excellent opportunity, and you will be receiving a little bit more information in the coming weeks about the course. As we were saying, it's in June, so we'll be following up on that. Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for listening.
And have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you as well. Bye.
Thank you. So that's all. That concludes our last session for this morning. Thank you so much to everyone who was able to join. And I'd really like to say thank you to Nelly, who's the Wizard of Oz in the background making everything work, and to Monsieur Bouquier, who has been spectacular. I think one of the things we spoke about yesterday with Monsieur Jean-Luc Alavena, is the importance of people putting trust in the younger generations, and that's really something that we can see with Monaco Private Label, we can see with Monsieur Bouquier. So thank you very much.